page 11, I'm going to be talking about detachment, right? So in my last video, I was talking about it. I was talking about responsibility frequency in my last video, so page 10. So what I noticed is that when you're out of the victim mentality, out of the victim frequency, you start to step into responsibility frequency, right? So you start to learn to put in the work, to do things, and change some perspectives here and there, because we have a lot of self-sabotaging perspectives when it comes to responsibility, especially if it's something that you haven't really done before and it's kind of new territory for you. So that just is what you're left with after you're out of the victim mindset, right? So then you start to have this new perspective of working for things, and if you want something, you earn it. You put in the work and you don't do shortcuts. You actually, do what you're supposed to do and take care of yourself. And if you have, dreams or goals or aspirations, then you work towards those dreams. So anyway, there's like a hair stuck in my mouth, and okay. So anyway, so when you're in responsibility frequency, you go out and you get results and you do things and you earn your way, right? Now, there's another thing that you might need to be careful about is attachment, because while you are working for the things that you want and doing what you're supposed to do, if you're truly being responsible and not being lazy and act like you did something when you really didn't put that much effort, you also got to pay attention to that too, because it's very easy to think that you've done enough, but there's some stuff there that, I don't know, it's just people think that they do things when they're lazy. I think that's just, I guess that'd be your honest assessment of yourself. So anyway, attachment, right? So attachment is this wanting or this needing that kind of promotes a little bit of scarcity and the lack mindset. So when you're putting out that frequency, you're going to be manifesting, waiting, and wanting and needing, and this like attachment that you need it and that you want it. And so there's like a difference between taking responsibility for things, and then also like having attachment to that as well. So this is what I mean, is that you'll do things, right, and you'll do everything you can to make sure a certain outcome happens, but then seemingly out of nowhere, every time you try to build this thing up, it falls apart. And every time you do it, and you do it again and again, and you're doing everything you can, you're doing it from like a different way of doing it, and you do anything you can, but then it falls apart, and then it doesn't work, and then something happens that you can't control, right? So you can control through being responsible or not, so you can control what happens, right? But then something will happen and it's not in your control, and then you're like, well, I just put on this work, I'll do it again, it doesn't work, and then you kind of give up, not like give up, but you kind of move on. You don't really get sad about it or get mad about it. You just kind of, you kind of accept it, and then it's that moment where you stop thinking about it and you stop doing something about it. But you just completely stop that and you let go of it, and then boom, it happens when you're not even you're not even thinking about it or doing something about it. It manifests, and it's like it's a surprise, you know, because then you're like, well, you know, I've done all this stuff in the past, and then all of a sudden when I'm not thinking about it or doing something about it, then it happens. And that's detachment, right? So you're gonna have to be mindful of, like, are you putting out, you know, responsibility frequency with attachment, you know, and you gotta be careful not to be too attached to the results of things. Okay. So another thing is that we manifest based on our frequency, right? So if you don't like your frequency, you can increase your frequency through shadow work. I think it's kind of like the best or only way to really do it is through the shadow work, because then that lowers your ego and it increases, you know, unconditional love, and it lowers the judgment, removes the ego, and you start to operate at a higher frequency, at a higher perspective, right? And you remove the limiting belief self, and you become more of your authentic self, and that aligns you with who you are and not who you think you are, right? So if you don't like your frequency, you can just do your shadow work, increase your frequency. Sometimes when you kind of just, I guess the word is like surrender, where you're not necessarily like, you don't really give up, or you're not really bitter about it, you know, when you're detaching from something, but when you just kind of like surrender and, you know, don't think about it, don't do anything about it. Sometimes the detachment doesn't manifest right away, you know. Sometimes it happens like instantly, sometimes it happens, you know, like an hour or two, sometimes it can happen like maybe like a month or something. Sometimes things won't really work until your frequency is there. So sometimes when you just kind of, you know, kind of surrender, you move on. Sometimes you just need to raise your frequency a little bit, focus on other things, and then somewhere down the road it manifests, and it's from detachment, and, you know. I forgot what I was going to say. Something. Oh yeah, that's another example. Is that when you remember something and then you forget it, and then when you detach from that thing you're trying to remember, then it happens. That's detachment too. So, you know, it's like you're always trying to think about what was I going to say, what was I thinking, and then when you just leave it alone, and then it's like, oh yeah, I remember, you know. So that's another example. I think that's it for this video.